everyone! Trackside Maniac here. Welcome back to Track Pack. We're not doing a podcast episode, we're doing something completely different. This is going to be a little mini-series where I interview some specific people from a specific indie animation show. You might have heard of it, called the Railways of Crotoonia. And to start off the first episode, I thought it'd be fun to just get the creator on for the first episode. The man, the myth, the legend, the guy who enjoys the Tim Hortons, Milan.
Who am I? What am I doing here? How did I get here?
You walked through the front door. That's what you did.
Oh!
I showed
So
you the
I
way.
did.
Yeah, you walked through the front door.
It's a very small front door. Took a little bit of time to get through.
Yeah, normally the cat uses that door, but anyway, before we begin with the questions, it's always normal to start off with a bit of small talk. So, how are you doing, Milan?
I've been doing pretty groovy. I went thrifting earlier today, and on the way back, I got me some nice Australian steak to enjoy on the barbecue for dinner. So I'm gonna be doing that tonight, and then I'm gonna go watch the new Naked Gun movie tonight because I hear it's very funny. I like to be a funny movie.
All right, that sounds good. The audio listeners might not be able to know this, but I am not in my room at the moment. My PC setup is out in the living room for reasons I won't get into. But long story short, is I'm sharing a room with one of my siblings, so that's great. So if we have nothing else to talk about for small talk, let's get into the questions. Now I have all of this written down on a notepad.
I was gonna say I was up for talking minis for a little bit, but if we gotta go through the small talk.
Oh, wait, wait, what?
Funny joke.
Is that a Game Grumps reference?
I can neither confirm nor deny. Anywho, serious.
All right, yeah. Anyway, let's get on to the questions. So we'll start off with some of the basic questions, and then we'll save the good ones for last.
But what if they're all good? They could all be good questions.
Well, you never know. Okay, so question 1: how did you come up with the idea for Crotoonia?
Well, I think it all started when I was born. So Crotoonia is kind of interesting because it's a hodgepodge of different things. It wasn't just like one single thing at the beginning. It was a mixture of different things. So as a young kiddo, my older brother had a lot of Thomas stuff. So naturally, I was the one who caught the disease. I got the funny train genes. So Thomas was always something I had kind of grown up with. We had a bunch of the original Wooden Railway stuff, and then I think 2003 or so, I got my first little motorized set, which was I think Thomas at the Station set, the one with like Wellsworth and the Signal and that little drawbridge, and of course the VHSs and stuff, and Magic Railroad. So it was like, typical starting out. But I think where the genes of Crotoonia really started to kind of form was my younger cousin, who has a very wealthy uncle. He had a lot of videotapes of different things. So it wasn't just Thomas, Disney, and a few things, but it was like my family had like a little bit of variety, but then my cousin had a lot of different things, and among those was the original little engine that could direct a video movie, the one with the funny collapsing bridge and Frank Welker and all that jazz, and also Theodore Tugboat.
Yeah, wait, are you talking about the 2011 one or the original of Little Engine?
You underestimate how old I am, buddy boy. We're talking. This was the one on videotape, so that's how you know I'm old. I was like the last of the VHS generation.
Okay, so the original. Got it.
I was partying in like 1999 because I was born in 99. But yeah, so I wasn't completely oblivious to talking machines. I grew up a healthy amount of Bob the Builder too, but that was kind of my first exposure to like, wow, there's other talking trains too. and there's talking boats like those talking trains. It's animated in the same style. Wow. So as a kiddo, that kind of, like, it wasn't immediately like, okay, I'm gonna make funny crossovers, but it was kind of like, a what if scenario as a young kiddo. Like, what if the characters met each other? And funny enough, the first real crossover I think I formulated wasn't even like a full, like a proper like big crossover thing. One of my first attempts at a series with a crusty old camera and a few other things was something called Lego Thomas and Friends. I swear I have a disc of it somewhere. I filmed like 3 or 4 episodes. They were not the greatest quality, but it was like Thomas, like the Duplo Thomas, and then like it was like pretty much whatever I had around the house. So instead of Sir Topham Hatt, we had Miss Wendy because I had a Duplo Wendy, and then it was like, I forgot what the engine's name was, but it was like a modified Muck, because the Muck treads would work on the train wheels. And then it was like, because my younger brother had Go Diego Go toys, it was like, Barry the Bear thought the jokes were very funny. It would be like, here's Thomas, Percy, and the Coal, but it's Thomas, whatever the Muck character was, and the Coal. And Barry the Bear thought the whole ordeal was very funny. And the DVD was called Thomas Puts the Brakes On. And it was filmed around a Bratz pool of all things, so it was like I had the tracks running through it, and then blocks go splashing into the water. So through all the hodgepodge of the ideas that we're going through, one of the things that I had formulated because it was fresh at the time was like Tilly's Great Discovery, and a lot of that early crossover stuff. I was like people like go, well, he's doing it so much better than those crossovers, which we'll get to in a moment. But as a kid, I was making those kind of crossovers. I get where people were starting that from, because I would do like my funny original character, Alan, do it with like Orville from The Rescuers in their own Take a Tailspin, because I watched the intro and like a few commercials, and it'd be stuff like Morgana from The Little Mermaid 2 is like the main bad guy. This is not me joking, by the way. This was actual stuff.
Okay.
So it was basically tossing around stuff on MS Paint because I was getting to be a little imaginative and being a bit funny. And there would be various crossovers that all kind of like bits and pieces of that would kind of formulate. And obviously, a lot of them were not the greatest. Like one was like Wayside, but it was like different cartoon characters, with like a Turbo JUK inspired guy called Nick, it was just like a blue guy with like green shirt, just like Turbo JUK style, just kind of like mucking about. Or there would be like the Milan tunes go to Kalahari, which is like a thing I tried to do for years, where it was like basically a bunch of cartoon characters going up to the Kalahari Resort for vacation. It was a whole lot of different things, but where Crotoonia really started to form was with something called Milan Toontown, which was a backyard theme park I actually attempted to build out of scrapwood and stuff. This is not me joking. There is pictures of me trying to build this thing, but that's where the earliest iteration of Crotoonia actually started, because that was the point that, inspired by a certain fella that I grew up with, Tony Pilot, in his funny little series, Casey Jr. and Friends, when I was kind of like, I fancy me some of that. So I think it was about early teens, so like 12 to like 14, I think, when I was working on this wacky little theme park idea. But it would be like, the theme park would be used to film a series where, characters like Thomas, Tilly, Casey Jr., Ivor, and the gang would all be working together. And that's actually where a couple elements of Crotoonia came from, between certain characters working together, a villain duo we've yet to properly introduce, but I want to eventually. And actually, Ralph originally came from that idea, and to show what kind of idea what kind of stuff I was doing with the series, he was going to be part of what was called the Robotnik fleet, which was going to be a fleet of diesels, which, no joke, was a fleet of diesels that all started with R. So Ralph was just like the shrimp of the gang, like I guess technically the Zug, where he's just this tiny little angry guy amongst all these other bad guys. And one way or another, he became the boss of the Steelworks, because I saw that engine in trains as a kid, and I was like Train Simulator, and I was like, I want to make a character with that. And so this tiny little diesel kind of became a character. Ralph just kind of became a through line with all this, but obviously that never went through. And I think there's some stuff archived on an ancient computer, but I've only got a few scraps of it. But where Crotoonia actually got started was roughly around 2013. My early attempts at a YouTube career had not gone soundly. When Tools to Go, my YouTube career actually started off with something called Tools to Go, which is a thing that Google rolled out for classrooms and stuff. So you got like your own email address. But what they didn't realize was kids could make their own YouTube channel. So the very first channel I had, Derpety Derp 1999, was completely on accident and kind of a sneaky little thing without my parents knowing.
Right.
So
you talked about this during the live stream, didn't you?
I believe I did, and you can probably imagine the horror of my mom finding out her son is doing these aggressive rant videos on on freaking Engines Tonight and Trainboy 54. I was there during the war. I can't talk smack about that guy because I was one of those angry little people being like, "Whoa, he's so terrible. We've got to run him off the internet." So my career wasn't off to a great start, and a few different things had not gone well with trying to get things going. Like, I tried to do another series called The Entertainment Annihilator, and the first episode was like pulling teeth. It was like too many ideas going through, and stuff wasn't working. Reviewing just wasn't my forte. But at the same time, this was when, Trainbow 54, Pooh's Adventures, all that stuff was like, the hate was intense for at the time. We kind of see it as a joke now, but there was like crusades against this stuff back in the day, like whole Tumblr blog against it even. And I was kind of sitting there like, man, look, that Tony Pilot guy's doing MMD and stuff now, and man, I wish someone would make a good crossover. And then a little idea came running across my face, and I was like, wait a minute, I can make my own crossover. So, and then MMD, this Miku Miku Dance, this funny little program, can maybe make it happen. And it took a while. The very first model I ever downloaded, I believe, the first one I asked Tony Pilot himself for, when I first contacted him, was Rusty from the 2011 Little Engine That Could. And then the very first models I downloaded were Meg, and then a beach set, which initially in the early stuff of the series was going to be Ariel's Beach. And then I believe it was like a C-51 locomotive or something. It was some kind of Japanese engine. There was a test animation. It's up on there's a screenshot of it on my DeviantArt, but my first test animation was just like, these characters were together, and obviously it took a while to actually get things going, but Crotoonia kind of started just out of the blue after a failed attempt at doing reviews and stuff, and then being like, you know what, I'm going to make a good crossover for once. I'm going to make one they'll all see. You can make a good crossover with this sort of stuff.
And then the rest is history.
Exactly.
All right.
Sorry if that was a longer segment than probably intended.
Yeah, that went on for like a while, but let's get on to the other questions. So, now that we know the history about this show, what do you normally work on for this series?
Most things that aren't voice acting and animating. So, like, I have help for a few different things, especially recently. Like, the next episode we're currently working on is currently being directed by Tip, who I'm gonna do some animation for that episode, but he's basically in charge of that one. But for the most part, I tend to do the bulk of the work. So I do all the audio and sound editing with like very few exceptions. I do a lot of the bulk, apart from recent stuff, I do a lot of the animation. I do clean up for everybody whenever they get their animation done. So I do like the lighting and the rendering and the effects. And then the most that I've had for help beyond animation recently, like I've always had this, is writing. So sometimes I'll get a friend or two to do some scripts and stuff, but generally I'm the one SpongeBob gift where he's like doing a bunch of things, and I'm slowly trying to get a few of those arms out of there so I can kind of focus on other stuff and be able to work on other projects.
Yeah. It's like when you've got like too much on your hands to work with, right?
Yeah. That's the blessing and the curse of making your own wacky little cartoon crossover series. Yeah. I'm one of the few people in this fandom animating it, so
all right. What do you normally do outside of Crotoonia projects?
Well, there's a few things. If we're talking with YouTube, there's a couple other series I produce. I produce Milan's Ramblings, which are kind of reviews, but not necessarily reviews. I just like talking about stuff. And then we have Milan Tune Prime Time, which is when me, my buddies, and a few other people get together and we do big old 2000s style TV marathons. So it's just like basically stuff you would find on like Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, Disney Channel back in the day for like a big new episode premiere, but we do it our way a little bit. And then we have a new series currently in production that we're currently filming at the moment called Thomas's Ready to Play Adventures, which is a live-action model animated series that's sort of a mix between like the older style, like Thomas fan series, where it'd be like filming in a basement and just kind of filming with whatever you got, and then going a little bit beyond that with a few funny customs or a few like really ambitious ideas. Like one of the big sets that we're going to be filming hopefully either in the next few weeks or next month is we are rebuilding an entire dockyard we built around his swimming pool.
Oh yeah, that's right. Let's go on to the one of my funny favorite questions on here. How many characters have you voiced overall in the series?
Oh God, that's a quite a bit. I think we can say.
Yeah, you voice like nearly the entirety of the cast, don't you?
Not entirely, but we've got a good chunk of people. But I've voiced quite a lot of characters, to say the least.
Yeah. So, are you able to like go down through like a list of all the characters you voiced overall?
I don't think I can. I don't even know if my own wiki has a full list of who I voiced. That's how big it is.
I know you voice Alan Feverington, the narrator, Big Tim, and Brucey, right?
Yeah, that's a couple of the core ones I do. And then there's also Scrooge, and then there's also Dip, and then there's a few other characters. I do a lot of bit roles, and I also voice James every once in a while. James is very fun to do voices for.
Yeah.
So it kind of depends on who we need or what we have. But luckily, we have a lot of amazing talent on the voice cast too, and more to come yet too. So it's not just me doing every single voice, but I do a decent amount. Oh, almost forgot Big Tim too.
Yeah, I did list off Big Tim.
Oh yeah, whoops.
Yeah. Right, let's see. Who's your favorite character to voice?
There's just a lot. That's kind of a tough one because the favorite questions are always tough for me because I can't pick a single favorite with the gang because it's like picking my favorite child. I can't do that. There's too many. I don't want to be that kind of parent. But there are a few characters that I do enjoy voicing quite a bit. I like kind of doing Brucey a little bit. He's a bit laid back. He's a newer character we've been introducing I want to do a bit more with. Big Tim's always a bit exciting to do because he's always very excitable, very peppy. He's like a big old puppy dog. And then James. I love doing James because it's very much George Carlin James. Very snarky, kind of like, why do I have to do this sort of job? And then Dip's a bit of an interesting fella I've done only a few times. You're gonna see him again real soon, but he kind of talks a bit like this. So he's kind of like a little weaselly kind of guy, but not really weaselly. He's kind of like, hey, listen, I gotta get this job going. Let's get going, honk honk. So, and then and then Scrooge is one I voiced very recently. You're gonna see him in a new episode coming up. So, so there's a lot of fun voices to do with the series. It's fun to kind of play around with your performance a little bit in different accents and kind of getting to be as goofy or as serious as the scene needs.
I see. To follow up with that, what has to be the funniest line you've had to record for any of your characters that you voice?
Oh man, there's a lot of fun. There's a lot of fun lines I've recorded over the years. I'm trying to think what would be my personal favorite because it's just like it's. I've been so partly because there's been so many great things I've recorded over the years, but also there's been so much I've been dealing with recently. It's kind of like my memory kind of feels a bit shot more than it used to. But the April Fool's trailer was probably one of the most fun things I've ever recorded. Like the whole Crotoonia movie, like it's been.
I think I know what you're about to say, but I'm gonna let you say it.
There's a few great lines in that one. But I think the Jubilee bit is one of my favorites to go with. Like, never everyone, I'll use my computer skills to. Oh no, he's dead. So,
I think
it just.
I really thought you were about to say like the "I'm the daddy now."
That was another fun one, but I can't quite say that. I can't do Matt Berry out loud at the moment. That was another very fun one, but alas. My grandmama is watching television in the other room. I usually do my recordings at night, so.
I see. I think one of my personal favorite lines from you that you've done for the series has to be from Tracy's episode, with one of the troublesome trucks saying, "So Joe, did you forget about the giant pier we're about to crash off of?"
Oh my god. Oh, that episode was really fun to record, especially Joe the truck there. Joe was a very fun character. His voice was based off. It was like I forgot what his name was. It was like Oh god, I need to look this up really quick. You can cut this bit out really quick.
No worries, man. No
Wait,
worries.
I remember it.
Oh.
So Joe the Truck's voice was based on a John Travolta impression from Animal Olympics, and he kind of talked a little like this, you know. He's an alligator that's supposed to be like John Travolta, you know, and he lives in the sewer. So Joe the Truck was kind of based on this a little bit, you know. He's just a little guy. He's like, you know, maybe we should teach Tracy a little bit of a lesson. And I think the best way to answer the question is anytime I get to be really silly or goofy, that is my favorite stuff to record. It's hard to pick one favorite line because I've done so many fun ones. You might see Joe later on, but I don't know. We gotta wait and see for that one.
Now, you did say you animate for the series quite a lot, right?
That is very correct.
Right. So, what was the first thing you animated for the series?
So, as I mentioned before, it was like a really rudimentary test that I did with the 3 characters I had on file at the time. It was like Meg jumping into Rusty. Rusty was followed by the Japanese engine, and Meg was like signaling, let's go, and then they headed off. That was kind of my first real rudimentary animation test, and everything after that was, for a while, was kind of like that. It would be like Thomas going over a bridge while a Miku tug would puff by and whistle, or like, you know, just like basically trains going by, maybe like a couple bits of like test human animation. But actually, I lied partially because beyond that test, there was one bit that is somewhere on the channel. It was a bit where it's like, I think it was Miku, and I forgot what other Vocaloid character it was, and then Meg. They were in the cab of an engine, and Skarloey goes by, and it's like, I think Miku was like finicking with the controls. That was probably the first real test when I actually had a solid concept for the series that I actually did. And it's up on the channel. It's also very rudimentary. You can kind of see a lot of stuff I was still tinkering with at the time. But there was also some stuff I was getting the hang of pretty quickly. There's a lot of stuff back then I wish I knew now, but it was all part of the process. I did not follow any proper tutorials for the most part. A lot of the early stuff was me just winging it, and that's part of why with my tutorials and stuff, I don't just be like, okay, you do the interpolation curve like this. I just kind of tinkered around and saw what worked.
Right. So, as an animator, how often do you make or come across animation errors in the projects?
Quite a bit. Anything to do with curves is a nightmare because you got to keyframe every single bit of that. I don't know what the Thomas series uses, but I envy people on the show or on Blender that have like curve paths that can easily do it. Although with some flexi tracks, it's gotten a little bit easier. We tested keyframing directly with the flexi tracks in Surprise for Livy a little bit, and they have been a little bit of a godsend.
Yeah.
So
you just mentioned Blender. As a Blender animator myself, I do know a bit about using curves when trying to animate the trains on the funny tracks. I think there's like 2 methods of doing it, but I won't go into detail because we don't have time for that.
Oh, good. You can tell me your secrets under the table.
Right. Okay, so what's been the hardest thing to animate for Crotoonia?
Oh God, curves for one thing, but but I'd say, but I think this is why I get a lot of human scenes. Then it's taken a bit for a few of the team to tackle it recently. It's been humans because with trains you just gotta do with trains. I try to do more than just like they move around a little bit. I try to give them each a little bit of personality. Like some characters are a little bit heavier, some characters are a little more zippy, some characters are a little more deadpan. But with humans, it's a whole other ballpark because you're not just moving the upper body and the face and stuff. You're moving everything, and it's gotta feel natural, and it's gotta be very reflective of everybody's personality, and that stuff I'm really keen on trying to get more into my newer productions. Like with Ariel, for example, I try to reference a lot of Glenn Keane's work and a lot of the work on the original Little Mermaid to kind of get her personality down a little bit. And then we have Meg, who I'm going to be animating a bit soon. We got a short with her coming up. Ken Duncan has a very particular style with the posing and the timing of a lot of it. And then with Bob, with the Builder, which I've been binging recently, I notice a lot of the human characters have a very floppy kind of style to them. Everything's very exaggerated. Lots of hands in the air, lots of gesturing a lot of hand gesturing in particular. Like the hands kind of carry through the arm a little bit. There's a lot of particulars you got to watch out for. So the humans are and the curves are definitely the toughest bits for any project, depending on what's going on. That or 2D animation. 2D animation can take a while.
Yeah. Okay, so same question but with the voices, but who's your favorite character to animate?
Oh man, there's a lot of there's a few different ones. It's like another thing where it's like favorites are really tough, but Ariel obviously is one of my favorites. She's such a fun, expressive character to work on in terms of the human cast, and then I think for engines, Ralph tends to be a little bit fun. I don't know if I've animated too much of Ralph on his own, because most of his projects have been done by Sooty, because Sooty did Steel Team Steals the Show, and then also the She Blinded Me with Science, and then the Mike Mischief one that one was made fully with bloopers. But I'd say Rasher and Grace are also a lot of fun to animate. Like Grace especially because it is following a lot of that mentality of like really at it. Because with Grace, she's very much a bit of a clumsy character. So with a lot of her movement, you have to keep that weight around. So whenever she's like turning around, she's got her arm. You have to kind of bend her a little bit as she's turning around. So it's kind of like got that weight and momentum. And then Brucey's another character I've done a little bit of work on, and he's really fun to do because of not only different mouth shapes that he has a very different mouth shape system compared to a few of the other characters, but also with the doors and stuff and his hat, he's very expressive. So I'm looking forward to working with him a bit more. So there's a lot of basically anybody that I get the chance to be super expressive with and super silly are my favorites.
Right. On to the next few questions. How many episodes or shorts have you written overall?
Oh man, there's quite a few. It's hard to put down like a definitive amount, but for season one, for the 5 episodes we made, I wrote the majority of it. Although for some of the later ones, I did get scripting help from Michelle Hurtado to refine a few things. Her biggest contribution, I would say, was definitely Thomas the Building Engine, because I posted the scripts up for it on the Patreon, but there was some stuff we ended up cutting out and completely rearranging with that episode, because initially for the start of the climax, it wasn't gonna be Thomas causing the accident. It was gonna be Maxamonte just getting into the accident with Lofty, and Lofty just spilling the container over. But Michelle suggested the idea of bringing a little bit more of the Bob and Thomas formula, where Thomas, in his enthusiasm, goes to try and get a job done. He gets stuck in the middle of all that, and then the furnishings he's pushing end up sent over. And then for a lot of recent episodes, we've had some help from different people, like Tip and Duke of Benry Bay. Like Tipper Top Hat and Duke of Benry Bay have been major scripting helps for a few different recent projects. All three of us wrote the Surroundlands Training Day feature that we did for the Friends of the Rescue DVD, which we released on YouTube as a little tease of what to expect for some future titles we're working on for the DVD releases. And then Michelle contributed a couple different scripts. And then for 2 particular episodes, we brought in Half-Baked Hex 8, aka Hayden, who did She Blinded Me with Science, which was based on a drawing that he did ages ago. And then I did the outline for A Surprise for Livy, but I had Hayden write it because Hayden has a very particular style of comedy that I just adore working with, and also he handles characters really beautifully. And then each writer has a few different talents of their own that I really like to hone in on. Like with Duke of Benry Ray, they're really good with emotional moments. They do really well with not just characters, but also like kind of getting a bit more into the mentality of them and kind of get into that emotional core. Tip has really good knowledge on a few different projects and stuff, and also just a really good comedic timing with a few things. So everybody brings their own thing to the table. Like for example, the episode that we're currently working on, I initially did the rough script for it, and then Tipper came in, and we had a very different idea. Originally, there was going to be a bit of a different dynamic with the episode. We were going to have a particular character appear, but because of the way he's animated, it became real. Like, we realized, okay, this isn't going to be feasible. We can't pull this episode off with this. And then Tipper suggested bringing in a certain character to take that character's place. And the dynamic that came from that, I think, really made the story a lot stronger. So yeah, I've done a good chunk of the writing for a few different episodes, but it's also great to be able to bring a lot more people, especially more recently, to help kind of bring in their perspectives and their talents, because I think when you've got writers with so many different great strengths and you know where to bring that on in, you get something really, really good.
I'm just writing down a few more questions onto here that I did not think about until now.
Oh, good. Right away, my friend.
right. Okay. Back to the main questions here. And I know you just talked about this earlier, but how much cut content has been removed from the initial first drafts of every script?
That's tough. There's not so much deleted content as one might expect because of the way that Crotoonia is, but there's been bits and bobs we've cut out for like certain bits over the years, like stuff that just didn't make it in the script. But there have been a few deleted scenes. For a minor example from season 1, initially one of the things we were going to carry over into Crotoonia was in Casey Jr. and Friends. There was a lot of like different kid crews that would man the engines. And so in the original script for Tilly to the Rescue, we mentioned Heidi, who didn't have like a speaking role, but she would be there for a few different things, like bracing for impact when the milk cars slam into Tilly and a few things like that. But because I did not know the magic of the OP button at the time, which is basically attaching one model to the other, and also the way the human physics were, as you can see with Ariel in Tilly to the Rescue, she ended up on the cutting room floor. And then with that, Ivor's face was cut partly because we went from having him having a speaking role. I believe Luca Dollar initially voiced him. To we just decided to not have him speak at all, and so the face got removed after Tilly to the Rescue because we realized it was pointless. But for a more major example, from Thomas the Building Engine, there was going to be a scene with Thomas and Percy at the junction that was supposed to set up the scaffolding stuff, that we see later on in the script. So it'd be like Percy's taking some stuff over to a site, and then Thomas is like, "How's things going on the branch line?" Because Toodle's taken over for the day. And I believe because we had Mainland Studios, Cam, briefly animate on the episode. I have to see if I have that file somewhere, but he animated a bit where we would go back to the branch line, Selgrib Hill specifically, the one from from the very first episode we technically did, the Meet the Crotoonians episode 1, Thomas vs. Birdie. And we would have Toodle chaotically handling Annie, Clarabelle, and Katie on the branch line, whizzing by Birdie. So that was probably the closest we've had from like majorly cut content, apart from a few things. But over the years, we've got a few deleted bits, and slowly we're getting stuff onto the Patreon that might give some insight to a few of those.
Interesting stuff. Because I honestly, I feel like Ivor having a face just doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you bother giving him a face?
Yeah, especially with the episode we're working on right now, I am very glad we kind of went back on that decision.
I'm assuming you don't compose any music for this show, right?
If only I knew the magic of Mixcraft.
All right, so we can skip over those questions.
Yeah, that'll be for my good buddy Wisteria Bird Studios, aka Christian. He is a very, very talented fellow with the music. Does an amazing job with every episode and the songs.
Also, now before we get to the questions that I have and the fan questions, I just want to quickly explain who else I have on this list for interviews. So we've got you, Rosie the Cutie, Lockie, Joel, Enterprise Engine 93, and someone who I'm sure is not going to be available for any of this, Sacred. And that feels very unfortunate for me.
I mean, hey, it's worth giving a shot.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, back to the questions. So now for the questions for you specifically, are you ready?
I think I'm ready.
Right, so what mindset are you in when building a new set to animate on?
1, that it looks good, and 2, that it's not going to be a nightmare to animate, and 3, that it is fun.
Okay.
And it's good timing for this, too, because also with the next episode, not to spoil anything, but I built a few new mine shafts to explore.
Ooh.
And that was interesting because initially we started off with the base of the Gradinia Bay Coal Company, which you're going to see very prominently in this episode. So we had some elements put together, like the mine entrance had a few, support beams and stuff, and then a few basic, and the track, which is dual gauge. But apart from that, I wasn't sure how to convey certain bits of the mine. So designing that from the ground up was a lot of fun because we see a lot of like wide open space and countryside and city stuff with Crotoonia so far. We've never really gone underground quite this way before, apart from some really rudimentary stuff for the salt mine. So building up the coal mine interior was a lot of fun because it was not only was it very fun to kind of go exploring a different environment, but the layouts also made for a lot of different cool things. Like we got lots of turnouts and switches and piles and fallen rocks and stuff. So with the coal mine, it it's going to be very exciting to see how it turns up on camera.
This might not be the case, but I'm really hoping it's like has some sort of inspiration from the mines that were in All Engines Go.
It was a little bit of that. I did have that a bit in mind when I was modeling. So it was kind of like a mix of the Chuggington mines kind of came first and foremost, but also the old mines from All Engines Go kind of came to mind as well. Like especially with the downhill bits from All Engines Go, that was very much on my mind with designing it.
Okay. How many references do you normally put in each episode or short of Crotoonia?
As many as it can serve the story. So I don't Brennerize it. I don't throw in like tons and tons of fan service, but I like sneaking little things whenever we can, especially in the animation phase. Like I like sneaking in characters that you don't quite pick up on at first, or stuff in the background people might not see initially. So, like, and one of those fun things was with the updated Crotoonia base set edition that we added in Skip the Tricks. At the very end, with the pullout, we got our first glimpse of a neighborhood nearby the station that we're going to see. And there's a few references to different houses we have there. Like, one of them was designed after the Blues Clues house. One of them was designed after Jenny Wakeman's house. Actually, some of the more tracked houses were designed after a few things. Like one that's reusable is based on Family Guy. One's based on...
for God's sake.
Yeah, I think it was Toonie that you can blame for that one. I think Toonie was to blame for that one. So if you look at some of the promos we've done of that neighborhood, you might pick it up if you see a front view. But it was like... I think... So... I like sneaking in subtle stuff, especially with the names of certain things. Like a lot of the names in Crotoonia for towns and stuff, like Rotoslopia is named after rotoscoping. Zagreb City is a combination of Zagreb, which is the capital of Croatia, and then also animation cells. So I like sneaking in stuff like that. Stuff that ranges from like Gradinia Bay, which is grids for animation, to like Colville, which is a reference to Milt Cull. So.
Okay, that kind of makes a little bit of sense, actually. Now, here's one that I immediately just wrote down as we were doing this. When will we get to see Phoebe have a spotlight episode all to herself?
So, I've got a Ralph and Phoebe episode in mind. I've had it on the script. Like, the script's been done for a couple of years. It's just been getting the time to get everything put together for it, because for the case of Ralph, Derek was so busy with recording different things, different projects for a while, that there was briefly a time where he wasn't, like, he was going to step down. Like, he's been like, I'm not sure if I can keep going. But then he rejoined recently, and very much so, because the first thing he recorded was the stuff for a surprise for Livy. So that was his very first stuff back. And if you know the episode, that was a very funny one. That was quite the line to come back to. But for Phoebe, I do want to eventually get Phoebe and Ralph on their own completely, although with the episode that I have in mind for them, you do get both of them on their own completely. I will not say what the episode's about, but it is a very fun one.
Yeah, just tell me under the table when we're done with this.
Yeah, I'll slip it under. Just let me know when.
All right. Right. Will we ever get a blooper reel for any of the episodes?
Oh, I've wanted to do one for ages. We have so much stuff from different episodes, from all sorts of different projects. I want to get that together one way or another.
Dude, a blooper reel would be so funny, though.
For an example of one, I will say, there was a holiday short we did years ago called Incidental Perfection, and that's entirely down to Enterprising Engine 93 when he was recording for To Lead to the Rescue. Because Matt was going through the script as he was recording his lines, and then he sees Salty and Ariel, and he's chuckling and loving the idea, and he's just like, you should do a short where Donald and Douglas are fighting Elsa's snowstorm. So that short is entirely because of Matt.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's a little bit of Crotoonia lore for you.
Now we come to the only joke question on this list. What's it like eating at Tim Hortons?
Tim Hortons, it tends to vary. They've gotten a little bit corporatized over the years. They're trying to push for like a lot of savory and like dinner and lunch stuff. But it's like, I love me a good farmer's breakfast wrap. Those are amazing. But I don't want pizza at Tim Hortons. I want to go for donuts and hot chocolate and other confectionery treats.
Wait, they sell...
But
Wait, no, hold on. They sell pizza at Tim Hortons?
yeah, that's. I don't know if they.
What?
I think they're still. Yeah, it's something they started. I think last year. It's like they're trying all these different things. I think because they were like people don't drink enough coffee, but it's like I'm there for a good donut and a good hot chocolate. I'm not there because I'm like, I want Tim Hortons pizza, but it's generally still a pretty safe place to go to. There's better donut shops in the city, but Tim Hortons, I love me a good sour cream donut. Get me one of those, and a cookie and a muffin, and I'll be A-okay.
We're almost done with the interview. We just got a few fan questions to answer, and then I'll let you be on your way. So, the first... What?
I was about to say, good thing too, because I got me some Australian steak to make soon.
All right, we'll try to make this quick. So this first one comes from Reb Productions, I hope I pronounced that right, who asks, is there something you want to implement into Crotoonia but can't figure out how to do so?
That's a big one. I will say with my construction binging recently, thanks to a certain somebody getting me involved into a certain retrospective, I'm trying to figure out stuff for physics for certain construction things because I want to do more stuff with Bob, Jack, the Pack, and the Can-Do crew and the Trugoneers. I want to do stuff like Patrick and Dizzy working with like actual cement and stuff, but I don't know how to do that in MMD in particular. And in terms of character stuff, there's a lot of different characters and ideas I want to try and sneak in, but I'm only one guy. I've only got so much for help. And one major thing, we've had an episode introducing them ready for a while, but there is a villain group that I would like to introduce very soon into the series. I've had them in mind since, I think, pretty well since we really started forming the actual foundation for the series. And I'd like to get them introduced sooner than later if we can.
I see. Sleepy Percy 32... I almost just mispronounced that. Sleepy Percy 302 asks, do you ever plan on making a sequel to Tilly to the Rescue or make a whole new movie for Railways of Crotoonia?
So the funny thing is, a new special has been something I've been really wanting to get off the ground for a bit. Because initially we were going to do it so like every few episodes we would have like every dozen or so episodes we would have a new half-hour special, and we had a script ready for the one that was going to follow. And going back to that, it was a bit of a mess, so I'm glad we didn't entirely go through with it. But the third one we were going to do is one I've been revisiting a little bit recently and considering for production. And there's a few, I will not say much, I don't want to overhype people, but there are two major projects I've been seriously considering recently. One is a 40 to 60 minute long special, and eventually, I don't know when we do this, but I want to do a full-length Crotoonia movie. I don't know when we do it. I don't know. I don't know how we do it because we need quite a lot of volunteers for the animation side of things. But those are two things I've been seriously considering recently.
Well, that does sound very interesting. just have like a 5-hour Crotoonia movie and then we're all good.
Well, I'll be dead by the time that happens. 5 hours, I think, might actually kill me.
Okay, anyway, Josh Productions 07 asks, what would you do if a company told you to stop using certain characters in Crotoonia?
Well, they'd be going bye-bye.
Oh.
They can make it work.
Yeah.
I'm sitting here, like, it's funny when people are like, oh my god, you're doing DVDs? What, Mattel pitch? I worked for Mattel. I didn't get paid by them, even.
Wait, you did?
I worked on TCC for some years, never got a cent from it, but it was fun.
Oh yeah, no, you're right. You did. I forgot about that. I completely forgot about that.
I don't bring it up so often, mostly because I don't know who talks about the TCC no more, apart from the funny bridge jump and the Axel scene.
Who talks about Thomas Credit Collective in 2025?
I hope more people do. That was kind of fun.
All right. James the Red Productions 5 asks, why does Livy despise Thomas?
Well, there's a real big story about that. You see,
oh dear.
years ago, it was like a big old thing. Thomas took her beans, and then she got very angry. And I'm kidding around. So Hayden actually answered this in the Crotoonia server some time ago, and I'm gonna quote it right here because it was fun seeing the speculation for it, and also the reason why we ended up going with that direction. So, to quote Hayden, to me, the fun came from pairing the two together. Livy is quite grouchy. Things have to be her way or the highway. She's very particular in how things should be run. I can imagine no one would be more irritating to her than Thomas, known for his cheerfulness and cheekiness, who messes up all the time and usually gets praised for fixing the problems he causes. And to finish that quote, he says, I'd like to think she knows him through the notoriety. So there's the big Crotoonia lore explanation through Hayden.
Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing like more like pairings that don't make a lot of sense but are actually really fun. Like, say, Percy and Tracy, maybe? That sounds like a fun pairing.
So it's real funny you say that because I've been keeping who's in the next episode very secret for most people. I don't know when you're planning to release these, but I'm hoping to release a clip from this hopefully soon, depending on how far we are in production. But the next episode is about Scrooge, Ivor, and Bertram.
Okay,
so
well, hopefully by the time this episode comes out, it will probably hopefully be released by the end of the month.
If not, you can add in this bit. So you see, the real big secret is Big Bill's Hell's Cars, bad deals, cars that break down, thieves. Man, wasn't that exciting reveal for the next episode? It's gonna be people don't know what they're in for.
All right, and finally, the last fan question is from I shit you not, it's from Play Don't Pause. Surprisingly enough. Who asks, does he know how to Gangnam Style? This is a legitimate question. I am not joking around. He actually asked this.
Well, I don't quite know that, but I used to do Croatian folklore dancing, aka kolo, for some years. I know how to do a pretty mean sidestep. I know some pretty nice partner dancing. Do I style the Gangnam? You may never know.
All right, and I think, let me just go back through all my notes here to make sure. Yeah, that is all the questions. And we killed at least 53 minutes through all of that.
Oh, that's going to be quite a lot of editing to get down there.
Oh, yeah.
But I should know. I've done ramblings. Oh, those are not easy to edit. That's the reason the Lore Olympus video's been taking forever.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having me, Liam. I almost said Liam for some reason. Where the hell did that come from?
I ain't no Liam. I knew Liam back in grade school. He was a pretty cool guy.
Milan, thank you for joining this first episode.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah. If this does well, I'll definitely do more of these episodes, and I'll probably see if I can try to get Matt onto here at one point, if he's available.
Okay, so you hear that, everybody? Watch this one so we can get Matt on here. Please, go watch it. I want see, the more of my crew over here. Go watch the episode. Share it with your buddies. Share it in that shady alley where they do tricks.
Hell, if I swear to God, if I wake up the next day and I just see like a promotion on the Milan channel that's just promoting Track Pack for this episode, I swear to God.
I mean, hey, who knows? It might happen. Who knows? We'll just have to wait and see what happens.
That's going to be a surreal thing, though. But anyway, yeah, I've been Trackside Maniac. He's been Milan. And thank you for joining us on this episode. And we'll see you guys in the next one.
Bye-bye.